Just want to say hello to the people who just joined. If somebody just drop a wanted chat so I know that I'm audible, and we should get started in about 5 minutes or so. Okay, so I'm assuming I'm not audible then. Nobody's put a wanted chat, so I'm assuming you guys cannot hear me. I'll just need to I guess troubleshoot that for a bit. It looks like my mic's working. Oh, there's the one. Okay, great. Okay, great. Yeah, welcome to the people who just joined. Thanks for joining us on this. I guess actually I haven't been outside yet today. Work from home. I don't know if it's a nice day or not. 8 degrees. Okay, so kind of nice. Yeah, we've just got a couple of minutes to kill. If anybody would like to tell me about, what brings you to DevOps, what you're interested in, um, DevOps tools, cloud, anything like that is. If you're a student, if you're working professional, just if you'd like to tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're interested in. Just got a couple minutes to kill here. It's always nice to know what brings people to DevOps. Or if you're not even interested in DevOps, you're specifically interested in Terraform, or if you're just kind of interested in technology trends, just trying to professional system engineer. Oh, great, cool. So do you, Bill, do you use Terraform on the day-to-day? Both people who've responded so far are interested in Terraform. Okay, great. And are you both using Terraform on the day-to-day? Yes. Okay. So one person is using Terraform on the day-to-day. That's great. Simon, I think this will be a little bit too basic for you if you're using Terraform on the day-to-day. This is going to be starting off with how to install it, how it interacts with AWS, what the providers are, things like that. This will be very straightforward. If you're using it on the day-to-day, and by using it, I mean if you're using it in production to, you know, do complex configurations, this talk is definitely not aimed at your level. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. I'm going to be going pretty at at a lower level. It's only fair to everybody who's just kind of learning about it. I've used it in Azure. Okay. What do you mean by used it in Azure? You've used it to provision resources on Azure, maybe? Um, yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. And our system engineer, you are learning cloud. Cool. So by learning cloud, whereabouts are you in your journey? Do you you probably started with AWS. Have you created a VPC in AWS, or is it more like you're learning it just like getting EC2 instances going, things like that? And this is to Bill, I believe your name is. Migrating more stuff to cloud. Yeah, it's a good call to definitely learn cloud. We do kind of we do other talks about sort of the job market, where things are going. There are, legacy systems, people who are working a lot on legacy systems, definitely on-prem stuff. Yeah, for sure the next little while you'll want to pick up some cloud because that's the way things are going. And yeah, okay. Okay, I think we can get started here. This is the first time I've given a talk on Terraform. I do use it pretty much every day to do different things. I'm kind of getting into some more advanced uses of it. But the talk is brand new. I kind of just tried to get it together last night, this morning. So do bear with me a little bit if there's some switching around and this and that and the next thing. I'm happy to answer questions. In truth, there are not that many of you guys came out today, so we can do this very conversationally. If you have any questions, just feel free to chat to mesh them in. I can stop to try to answer questions, and like we can jump around and stuff. If it was a bigger group, I'd try to give it much more like a very professional talk, like just the way you would give any kind of webinar. But there's only four of us, so we can just kind of talk and relax and have a nice time. And yeah, if anything doesn't make sense, please let me know. So we will jump right into it. Great. So Terraform with AWS. We're just going to be focusing on AWS today. Yep, we're Be Cloud Ready. We're 2015 founded startup. My name is Nicholas. I'm a software developer at Be Cloud Ready, formerly a data scientist. If anybody's interested in, I think that the two people I've heard from today are pretty much on the DevOps and the SysOps side of things. But if anybody is kind of thinking about getting into the field, for the people I haven't heard of and which direction you might want to go, I would suggest doing something like DevOps or software engineering over data science, just because data science is pretty saturated these days, and the amount of people they need on a data science project, like for one data scientist, you need like 19 other people, be the software engineer, sysops, devops, whatever it happens to be, just other people. So yeah, I would definitely recommend going in those directions. Yep, so we've done some big corporate training for clients in the States. We um, yeah, I kind of just like to mention this because DevOps is really having its moment, and we do. So one of our founders is a senior DevOps consultant. He's got about 15 years experience in the field. Not all of which is DevOps, because DevOps didn't exist, 5, 10 years ago. But he's been doing DevOps for about 6, 7 years now. Knows a lot, and so we do get contacted by these pretty big corporations down the states, pretty kind of brand name places, and this is kind of just to say how strongly DevOps methodology and philosophy is kind of permeating, and how much opportunity there is for it for people who are interested in getting into it. Our corporate training, great. Okay, so here's our Terraform itinerary today. We're basically just going to do installation, adding it to the path. Then we will do we're going to do the Amazon CLI. So don't worry if you don't know what that is. Then we're going to kind of do just a hello world with Terraform. We'll do an AWS. We'll do it on AWS and just get an EC2 instance. So we can just kind of go over the main Terraform command, what the state, what the state files are, what the main files for Terraform are. And then lastly, I'm going to show you a sort of a more advanced one, which would be a full, not a full DevOps pipeline, but it's the idea behind deploying an application using Python to interact with AWS, then Python to interact with Terraform, and then using Python to actually SSH in. So one of the kind of things that people who come from a systems background and they're kind of interested in DevOps, there is sort of, I think in some places this might still be true, but largely to be able to get into DevOps, they're going to expect you to have some developer experience. And the main reason for that is that Python is just an amazing go-between for everything. And anytime you want to automate some kind of thing, you can use Python. Now, usually within DevOps, there'll be specific tools that will make the automation really really easy. Largely, like if you're doing CI/CD, you can do Jenkins. There's just so many different automation things. But whenever you kind of can't, there's not a obvious go-to, you always end up using Python. Excuse me. So that's kind of why people want people who are going into DevOps to have some developer experience. Great. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So for the people that I have not heard from, we will go through our installation. I guess I'll first introduce Terraform a little bit. So yeah, Terraform is a tool for building, changing, and versioning infrastructure safely and efficiently. So Terraform can manage existing and popular service providers as well as custom in-house solutions. So basically, whenever as one of the people in here mentioned in the past, in a lot of ways, if you had a server and obviously you need a server to host an application or just have anything to be responding to web traffic, you need a computer to actually be filling those requests. And that was a that was a big full-time job for a lot of people, was configuring and maintaining these servers. These days, a lot of the people, whenever they need web servers, are just renting them from cloud providers like Amazon. The beauty of that is that there's so many advantages of it. It's just everything's going that way. Some of the advantages of cloud, of course, are that you don't have to buy the servers up front. You don't have to buy the computers and actual hardware up front. So therefore, if let's say you buy more than you need, then you're just sitting on a lot of cash expenditure that's not being very useful for you. Maybe you have to return them. If you don't get enough, then you're missing out on traffic, which are potential customers, or customers aren't getting good service. Your system's getting overloaded and going down. These days, of course, instead of actually having to own your servers, configure them yourself, maintain them yourself, you can just rent them from Amazon. Your build, I believe it's to the second, rounded to the minute on Amazon. So you can easily scale up and down your server, the amount of servers you have, no problem. You don't have to wait for the hardware to come. You don't have to configure it yourself manually. Well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of the configuration is done for you, especially, like building the server from the ground up. An AWS server is going to, or an AWS, so I'll just say EC2 instances from now on, which just means basically a computer that is in the Amazon cloud that you can rent. Um, they have a large amount of configuration on them to begin with, especially because you get to choose what operating system you want, and that comes installed with a lot of things that you might want to have your server run. And yeah, being able to have this amount of control, it makes things a lot. You have a lot more flexibility there, and oftentimes the cost savings is very, very large too. And it's often, they're going to be updated servers, they're maintained for you, and yeah, so everything's going towards the cloud. So that kind of gets into the next question is, then once you have the option to get resources from AWS, get compute or in storage and everything like that, EC2 instances, or in everything else you want, networking, everything from AWS. The question kind of comes about, when, how can you improve the process of constantly going and getting more infrastructure, configuring it? A lot of configuration is already done for you, especially in comparison to buying actual hardware from scratch that you actually own. It's highly configured already at a certain level. It's going to work out of the box, but still you're going to need to install your applications on it. You're going to have to put security in place. You're going to have to do a lot of things. You might want to create a VPC, like a virtual private cloud, so like a network, and then put your instances inside that. You can just, there's still is a whole lot of building systems in the cloud that you're going to need to do. So of course, Terraform is one of these tools that lets us do this in a much more efficient and safe and repeatable way. Awesome. Okay. So configuration files describe to Terraform the components needed to run a single application or your entire data center. So Terraform generates an execution plan describing what it will do to reach the desired state, then executes it to build the described infrastructure. As the configuration changes, Terraform is able to determine what changes and create incremental execution plans which can be applied. So, what does all of that mean? Basically, it just means that HashiCorp configuration language is what Terraform is written in, and we'll go through some code examples in a second. But basically what it is it's a stateful configuration language. So when you tell Terraform, you basically tell Terraform what you would like, what it should see in terms of cloud infrastructure, including networking, again, compute, everything like that. And then it will automatically go to your cloud provider, and it will build that state for you. So if you describe a whole bunch of different things to it, like I would like these many EC2 instances, I'd like a network, I'd like some storage, I'd like all these things, interactions and everything like that. Terraform unlike a declarative language, or sorry, it is a declarative language. Unlike like a linear procedural language where you're going to define everything step by step by step by step. Execute this command, then execute the next command, then execute the next command. What Terraform does is you're going to give it a state file, and it's going to automatically calculate all of the commands it needs to run in what order to make your cloud provider reflect the state of the Terraform file. And we'll get into an example of that in a minute. And let's keep going here. And yeah, and so lastly, the infrastructure Terraform can manage includes low-level components such as compute instances, storage, networking, as well as high-level components such as DNS entries, SA, SSA, features, etc., services, software features, etc. Awesome. Okay, yeah. So it has a huge amount of let me say this. It includes an incredible amount of options given that it spans so many different cloud providers. So let's take a look at the cloud providers just quickly. And if for any reason you can't see my screen because I have to shift back and forth between screens here, please let me know, and I will try to fix that. Let's go with Chrome. There we go. Terraform providers. Yeah, so this is a list of different Terraform providers, basically services that it can interact with. So a lot of these are cloud providers like AWS and AWS, GCP, of course, Azure. But a lot of it as well will be things like, I believe Git is one of the ones in here. Just see that a second ago. Yeah, GitHub, it can interact with that. It has like HTTP protocol control. So it just has a huge amount of configuration that you can do in Terraform itself. Okay, switch back. Point. Right. So feature of Terraform is infrastructure of code. It's infrastructure as code, of course. Execution plans, resource graphs, change automation, and it's written in the HashiCorp configuration language. So kind of take a look at those in turn. Yeah, so basically the main idea here is infrastructure as code. So we'll in a second I will go to just queue up an EC2 instance manually. Because I assume the people I haven't heard from here, but I'm assuming you're kind of beginner and just kind of learning AWS. Maybe you know how to do EC2, but it doesn't hurt for me to give everybody a refresher in case we haven't worked with it a little bit. So here's my my EC2 instance console, a lot of canceled spot requests there. And so, yeah, so I just have some terminated instances here. And so, of course, if I want to get an EC2 instance from AWS, I'll go to launch instance. And I know that this is pretty well-known stuff to some of the people who are with us today, but just kind of quickly going through it, I can set up my configuration details. I can put it on whatever network I want, whatever subnets I want. And I've already, I chose the machine image and the, I should have mentioned this, you choose basically the operating system, which is the AMI that's going to be loaded onto it. You choose your the size of it. So I'm just going to go T2 micro. It's a very small, very cheap one. Where do I want to launch it and some other things. I can add in storage. I can add in 8 gigs of SSD. Tags are just for internal use. And then I can put it on some kind of, whatever security group I want. I'll do my Flask group, which is kind of open to everybody. And then I'm going to review and launch it. And then, of course, we've got to choose a key pair. Yep, I can do cloud 0 test. That's fine. And great. So let's go to view instances. Screen's a little blocked here. Okay. And so anyways, yeah, so this is basically a fairly small computer that is now running on AWS. And obviously I had a lot of configurations details there. There's a lot of manual things I can do. I can change the security group. I can see what the details are. And so all of this stuff is basically what somebody would do, like a cloud engineer or a cloud operator. Obviously, cloud engineer's job is going to be much more complex than this, but this is in short just how to manually configure resources in the cloud. Great. Okay, let's switch to now we will switch over to Terraform. I'm going to go through the installation for anybody who wants to follow along with this, but let's go over here and take a look at how you might do this in Terraform. Actually, you know what? Just give me 1 second here. I'm gonna make sure I'm not getting too out of order because I want to I want to go through the installation stuff. Yeah. Okay. Let's actually go back and just quickly cover the installation for anybody who wants to follow along with this. But basically, I'm going to be using Python later on. So if anybody who hasn't downloaded Python, you of course want to go download and install Python. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, which is a wonderful editor created by Microsoft. That is going to be my IDE. So basically any code I'm writing, I'm going to be writing in there. And this is, again, this is for people who are just beginning, but basically you want to have a program that is going to, nicely show all the code that you're writing. So Visual Studio Code is a great place to start. So you can just download and set those up. If anybody just want any time to do that, just let me know in chat and I can give you a minute to do that. Otherwise, I'll assume people have Python installed. They've got VS Code installed. Great. Okay. So yeah, just kind of a quick intro to AWS and EC2. Again, for people who are totally new to this, but AWS is a cloud platform offering over 100 services. EC2 is one of those services. EC2 is a web service that provides secure, resizable compute capacity in the cloud. Basically, to put that simply, is just it's basically a computer and you can choose your size. You can go up to one that has a lot of cores in it and a lot of it's very, very fast, or you can go all the way down to one that's very, very cheap and just you're just going to want to use that for little projects and prototyping and things like that. So okay, great. So AWS setup, again, for people just new to this, you can create a free tier on AWS. And so to do this, we are going to need to have our a user, our user data saved. So if anybody wants me to go over this in a bit more depth, showing you how to get your user, how to save your security key file, I can do that. I'm happy to do that. But yeah, if nobody puts anything to chat, I'm just going to assume that more or less people know how to configure their users. Yes, security. Okay, somebody would like to see security. Okay, great. So for there's a lot to security, and it can be fairly deep. But I'm going to show you basically just what you need to get Terraform going. If you've already used Terraform for Azure, maybe you have that. I'm going to show you how to do Terraform with AWS, of course. So we'll kind of just go through that quickly. Switch back to my browser. How are you saving the key file and where you're storing it? Yeah, exactly. Great. Okay, let's go take a look at that. Okay. Let's go move this thing out of my way a bit here. Great. Okay. So basically what you want to do is you want to go to my security credentials. I didn't check this before, so I'm hoping this doesn't just immediately open my security credentials to the world. I can always delete my files and stuff. But basically, you're just going to go to access keys here. So access key ID and secret access key. I don't think that's going to give away my secret one, right? Yes, it will not. So great. So you also need so I could basically go to create new access key, right? And then it's going to go it's going to tell me what it's going to show me what my access key is, right? And then it's this stuff here. And I can download the key file. I would recommend downloading the key file, or you can copy and paste it. But if you download the key file, then it's just going to be in a CSV. So far, so good, I hope. And then I'm going to just go and delete this guy. Well, we'll just deactivate him for now. And actually, just so I don't forget later on, let's just go and delete him. Did I copy paste that wrong? Maybe. There we go. Great. Okay. So basically, yeah. So I just have my previous key going, and so once you save that, now we'll go into we will go back to here, and let's just assume that we're on we'll just create a new file, just because I don't know, blank.py. Oi. Okay, good enough. Anyways, I just want to not be distracted by this for a second, and we'll just go to new terminal. Okay, great. So yeah, all you're going to do at this point is basically you have to have AWS installed. So if people haven't used VS Code before, basically what happens is whenever you go to create a new terminal, it will just create it in the directory you're in. I'm in if we go to open folder, I have a Terraform folder. This is just, my local computer for my own projects and things like this, not a production environment. But so basically, anyways, in the Terraform one, we're just going to go in and we've got I think it's project 2, I'm calling it, and we'll go over what the files are in a second here. But basically, we're just going to open up a new terminal, and so we're in that location, and we just need to make sure that we've got AWS. So when we type AWS, this is just a PowerShell terminal. When we go to AWS, we've got that installed. If anybody is wondering how to install the AWS CLI, you can just Google how to install the AWS CLI. And so, yeah, Simon, if you want to install that, if you want to just put a 1 in the chat or something like that, let me know, and I can give you a minute to install that. It just takes a quick second to Google, download, and install it. But otherwise, I'll just kind of go on to show you how you would use it. So you're just going to go configure, and then it's going to ask me for my AWS access key. All good, great. Okay, so you figured it out. Great. So secret access key, default region name, and that's it. And obviously it's already been configured for me. So Terraform is going to, Terraform will go and look for your AWS configuration file. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, I haven't used it for Azure yet, but I'm pretty sure that will hold true for all the cloud providers as well. Great. Okay. So where were we in what we're talking about here? Okay. Great. So now we've got AWS good to go, and let's see, EC2 setup. Yeah. So basically, the only thing that we're going to need to know is about the key pairs, and I guess and the security groups as well. So I'll assume that there's some interest in also going through this really quickly. So this is just so that we can connect to our EC2 instances, or our EC2 instances after we build them. So Terraform will just go and build EC2 instances for you. But of course, if you want to connect with them, you'll either have to edit them later, or you'll have to or you want to pass the rest of the information so you can connect with it at the time of creation. So that's what we're going to go through quickly. Is basically just we're going to go back and share this. We're going to go back to EC2. And so now what we're looking at is we're just going to look at security groups. So you just want to have a security group in here that is going to, for example, give you SSH and web. And you could just open it up to the whole world if you want. Let's see the inbound rules on this guy. So yeah, this is just basically this is going to allow inbound traffic from anywhere to port 80, which is your HTTP port, and it's 22 for SSH. So basically this will let you, log in to your script, or log into your EC2 instances, and also, connect with them through HTTP requests. Yeah. All the defaults. Yeah, I believe the security groups, Simon, the default security groups just allow everything in. I'm not sure if it's from everywhere, if it's just from your IP address. I think it's from everywhere. So yeah, anyways, but so you just need to create a security group so you can set it to that. And also we want a key pair here. So I've got too many keys going on, but basically I'm just using a cloud test key. If you don't have a key pair up yet, basically you can create a new key. If you're on Windows and you're using PuTTY, which you don't need to anymore, you can use a PPK, but otherwise just a PEM is fine. And you do that and you're going to download that, and you're going to need to have that key. That key is an actual file on your computer, and you're going to need to have that to access your EC2 instances. Okay, very good. And yeah, so I think that sort of concludes the setup portion of it. Let's go back to. Great. Okay. So we'll have AWS working. I kind of covered this. Oh yeah, this is just the installation. The installation for Terraform is really straightforward, but we'll just quickly cover it as well. Go back here, and basically you're just going to go, Terraform download. And then you're going to go to Terraform, download, choose your OS. In my case, I'm on Windows. I'm going to, go ahead and do that. And then basically you're going to have a zip file. You're going to undo this. You're going to, unzip it. And basically you're going to have a binary. Somebody says, I tried AWS before for testing, but coming back. Yes. to scramble my thoughts a little bit. Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. Yeah, it's these things, if you don't use them, I would say monthly, they do really decay on you. Now, sometimes when you come back, you have like still a good idea of sort of what's going on, but yeah, you gotta be using it all the time, which is tough because there's so many tools out there. Anyways, I'm gonna share my whole screen. I don't think that's gonna be a problem, but let's find out. Um, Sharing screen. Okay, great. So if everybody can see my downloads folder. Anyway, so once I opened Terraform, and so I've downloaded Terraform, we're going to oh, I guess I already have the folder in here somewhere. And where is Terraform? Okay, great. Terraform's at the bottom here because I guess I got it before. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're just going to take Terraform and we're going to put it in some directory. So let's say we go to C and program files. I think I just selected 64-bit, so let's put it in here, and then we're going to make a new folder. We'll call this Terraform, and we can just put Terraform here because this is the binary that we need to have this to activate Terraform or to use Terraform. So we just need to have that in some folder. And then we're going to go to, and this is all on Microsoft, or I mean, yeah, this is on Microsoft, this is on Windows. So if you're having, if you're wondering how to do it on Mac or on Linux, please feel free to Google that. I'm just quickly, I'm assuming people are doing it on Windows right now, but of course you might not be. We're just going to update our environment variables, and we're just going to add it to the path. So we're just going to go edit to the path, and we're going to we're gonna just copy this. So we go up here, we're going to copy the path, and we're just going to do a new one, and we can add it to our path. There we go, great. And I actually see that I did it in my programming file before. So for me, I'm just going to delete that here, and we're going to go okay, and then I'm going to go and grab a command line. And I'm just going to make sure that this still worked by going Terraform V, and we're good. So as long as you're seeing that now, then you've got Terraform installed and you're ready to go. And hopefully everybody's got their AWS CLI configured, and so we can start to actually work with Terraform a bit here. Okay, great. We'll have to speed up a little. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Terraform Cloud is the fast way of doing implementations. It is really, really quick. It just saves you so much work. So that's why it's incredibly useful to know how to do. But we'll just go quickly back to our. I guess everybody can see my whole screen at this point, so I can just switch back and forth like this. Great. Okay. Yeah, so I went through the manual creation of an EC2 instance. Now we're going to go through it using Terraform. So before you guys saw me clicking around and things like that, VS Code, install it. Yep. So we'll just go and we'll take a look now at VS Code. I'm going to delete this name thing. So yeah, okay, great. So this is basically, let's just focus on the top here. So basically, when you want to create resources with Terraform. So let's say I want to do AWS, for example. The first thing I'm going to do is I basically need to have a provider. And a provider is just basically, it's the service that Terraform's going to go interact with, right? So there's all kinds of different services. There's, Google's cloud, there's Microsoft Azure cloud, there's Amazon, of course, all these different services can interact with. So you just have to specify one of them, and it becomes kind of like, it lets Terraform know, and Terraform again is going to go look at our CLI like we mentioned before. So here we go. So okay, great. Let's and so how would I find this? How would I find this information? So the way that I would find this information is I would go over here, and we'd go for a new tab, and I would just go Terraform providers. There we go. Yeah, I can share some resources at the end for this, no problem. Great, yeah, so we go to our providers here, and the docs are really, really good. So we're going to go to AWS, and the docs are really, really good on Terraform. So we can kind of see how we would configure it here. And basically, they've got example uses code, just copy it over, and that's pretty much it. This will give you creating a VPC, and otherwise, this is going to be that's going to be your provider. Okay, so let's see. So now that we've got a provider going, the next thing we're going to do here is this is one of the things that are good to know is that if you're going to create a resource with on AWS, every different region in AWS has a different name for the AMIs. So the AMI is when you, let's say you get a cloud resource, like an EC2 instance, that's just basically a computer. It's a virtual computer, right? It's a VM. So you need to install an operating system on that so that it can function like a computer. Amazon has a huge number of different operating systems you can install on it. Basically everything you can pretty much imagine. Sorry, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, but of course the difference, there's the actual AMI names are going to be different from region to region to region. So one thing I could do is if I want to create an EC2 instance with a certain AMI, right? I can go up here and I can go launch instance. And if I know I'm always going to be in North Virginia, because these are different regions here, different regions, and they actually have like, their internal names, but this is kind of their external names. And so the AMI is just going to be this number right here. And what I can do is I can pass that into Terraform. I can say, hey, Terraform, I would like you to use that AMI key. But if I'm ever dynamically creating these, and there's a possibility that I might create them in different regions, you don't want to hard code the AMI values. You'd much rather have Terraform go get the AMI value for you and kind of pull it out. So this is just a way to do that. So so the provider, as we mentioned before, this is a provider resource, is a service you're interacting with. The data command in Terraform is telling AWS, don't go do anything, but go get some data for me, basically. So a lot of things like, for example, a resource command, this is going to be a command to actually build the resource. We'll get that in a second. But in this case, we have just a command to Terraform to go get the, the AMI ID based on the description of it. So these are a bunch of different filters. This is a little bit more advanced, but basically if you go in here and let's say I take this Amazon to this name, if I ever want to get my AMI keys, or if I ever want to get an AMI image, I go to AMIs here. And what I can do is I can paste this in and I can search it, and none found, owned by me. Let's go public images. So we're going to go not private images, okay, let's try Amazon Linux. Right. Okay, great. So basically what we can do is, or if let's say what we want to do is we were like, okay, I really want to use, so the Amazon Linux one that I keep looking at, the kind of the top pick here, it's just a very standard kind of Linux, and it's very cheap. It's because Amazon owns it, they let you use it for incredibly, incredibly cheap. Probably, I don't think it costs you anything. It's just completely free. Unlike some other ones they're going to be extra money. So if I really want to get this, one, I can copy and paste the AMI image here, and I'm in North Virginia. Very good. And it's going to give me a bunch of these details, right, about the AMI, and I can take those details and I can put them into here, and I can get the AMI ID. And then what we do is we're just going to use, because this is named AWS Ubuntu, we're going to then pass that in as the variable name, because this is actually going to create the resource for us. Okay, great. So this is our I would say this is a very nice little hello world thing for Terraform. It's just like, this is the absolute beginning stuff. And so one of the things you have to do to begin with, I almost want to do this in a totally new folder, but basically a lot of these other files are not going to be generated. So if I do this in a totally new folder, let's go open folder, project, let's go project 2.1, and we're going to select this folder. Actually, let's just cancel for 1 second. We're just going to copy this, and then we'll go and we'll save it, and we will open that folder. Great. So this is a totally new file. We're going to create a main.tf. This is what's going to have all of your information in it. Like basically, this is what's going to be the state. So I'm just going to copy this in here. We're going to paste our code from the last one. And so basically, you'll probably, if you're following along with this, you will get some offers to install extra extensions and things like that. This is basically so your code editor has all this nice syntax highlighting, and it just really knows exactly what we're working with. At this point, what we're going to end up wanting to do is we're going to want to do a Terraform. So now this is kind of like our hello world, right? We're going to go to AWS. We're going to get the AMI ID that we can then use with this to create our EC2 instance, right? So we're going to go and we're going to go to first we need to do Terraform init. This is kind of your first command. And what this does is it just says what it goes is it goes off and it says, okay, you've given me AWS, you want to interact with AWS, it's going to go to AWS and it's going to get all the files it needs to interact with AWS. Great. And so now it's basically initialized that, but that's all it's done so far. The next thing we've got is a Terraform plan. And so this is, let's see, the refresher state, detect any differences between the thing. Okay. Right. Okay. I'm just going to do a Terraform apply. So basically, yeah, maybe we have to do a Terraform apply first. Let's check. I wonder why it's not connecting with my. Am I running the terminal here is the question. Yeah, I definitely am. I just did it in it. Yeah. So Terraform a plan. Yeah, so it's just basically telling me that it's not connecting with my account. But of course my AWS is configured. So let's just take a look here. Yep. And it's found that fine. So let's just open the other project. Maybe there's a step I'm missing. But yeah, we can come back to it. Let's save this on our way out and just see if this connects. Otherwise, the thing is I actually do my development in a different tool. So it could be that my development's currently overriding this and I want to actually quickly just check. Yeah, but let's shut down my development environment. Okay, great. And then we'll go Terraform. Right, yeah, it might have been my development environment overwriting it. Let's just do no, and then we'll open up our fresh file. And see if that is a problem. So we'll go Terraform. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I think so basically what I had is I had an application that was using Terraform open in the background, and I think that was overriding it. So initializing background. Okay, here we go. So now this is this new project that I was talking about, where basically when you do Terraform in it, it's then going to download the files you need. It's going to go and it's going to get the things that it needs to interact with AWS, and it's going to create a state, basically a state file. A state file is what Terraform uses to know what everything looks like, basically. And so right now, all it knows is that it connects with AWS, and that's pretty much it. It knows a version of it. So it doesn't even have AWS in here. It just has a version of Terraform. So it doesn't know anything right now. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use, so that was the Terraform init command, like initialize it, just starting things off. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go Terraform plan. And so the Terraform plan is basically, let's just let it do run its magic here. So this is great. So what it does is it looks at what you want to have happen. So it looks here, it says, okay, I want something on AWS, check. I want it to use some Ubuntu, AMI, and I want to have one T3 micro instance. So it's going to be an AWS EC2 instance, right? This is just an internal variable named net web. I'm going to give it this tag. So great. Okay. So it basically knows that it's going to go and it's going to create these resources on your account. And the nice thing is it doesn't know what a lot of these variables are. It doesn't know what a lot of these variables are going to be, right? Like a lot of these variables are, pretty technical and pretty deep, but it does know that it's going to be a T3 instance, for example. And what else does it know about it? That it's basically, so this is the AMI. Like we said before, this is the actual image that we're going to be using, which is a Ubuntu one. And so great. So now we know what it's going to do. So it's going to add one new resource. It's not going to change any, and it's not going to destroy any, right? So this is the point at which we're going to go Terraform apply. And basically what Terraform apply does is it's going to go and execute that plan. You don't have to do Terraform plan first. That's just kind of like a security or a safety measure. So you can see what's going to happen before you do it. So in this case, I'm going to go yes. And yeah, it's going to go and create my instances, and we will go take a look back at my account. We can see everything that it changed there. So now if we go back and look at my EC2 account, we should see yep. So pass all the security checks, eh? There we go. So basically we have this one initializing, and it's called Terraform demo. And this was the tag that we gave it in here. So we can kind of see that this went off and created a resource for me. So instead of having to do this manually myself, Terraform did it, which has a lot of advantages. Basically, this code, I can version control this code. I can do a lot of automation with it. So yeah, that's pretty great. Let us go. That's kind of the hello world of it. I'm going to see if there's anything I didn't cover there. Oh yeah, let's go back and just look at our state file quickly as well. So now we can see that there's a lot more information in our state file. And this is kind of one of the really powerful things about Terraform is that it went off and with just a tiny amount of code. This is basically the code to actually create the EC2 instance. It went and it created an EC2 instance with all these different variables, and it has all these variables stored. So if I want to know anything about the EC2 instance I just created, like I believe the public IP is going to be in here. Let's go down a little bit lower. Public true, just gonna have the IP in here. I'm curious. Associated with the public IP, let's see if the IP4, yeah, great. So basically this is the public IP is this right here. So if we go, we can see, if we go back to our AWS console, we can see that the public IP is just matching here, right? So it downloads a whole bunch of information about it, which of course then you can use with other programs to automate lots of things. Cool. Okay, let's say that I went through all of this and I'm going to now go configured. We did this stuff. So yeah, okay, so great. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about just a more advanced use case. And then I'm just going to get into some ideas about like if people want to take the next step and try to become DevOps engineers, if that's something you're interested in. But let's do a more advanced use case, for example. So I just want to make sure that I'm just going to stop screen sharing for 1 second to make sure none of my credentials are on screen. We'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so let's go and we'll look basically in here. So this is basically a Terraform builder. And this is kind of a lot of stuff's going on here, so I'm going to cover this pretty quickly, but it's just an idea of how you might use this in DevOps, for example. So a use case for Terraform, for example, is obviously building lots of cloud resources, right? So one thing you can do is, just going to close my Slack right now. Close window. Okay, great. Hopefully that will stop clicking at me. And great. And so basically in Terraform, so there's basically a library called Boto3. We're going to cover this all pretty quickly. So if anybody has any questions at it, I'm happy to stay for a little bit at the end. But basically, there's a library called Boto3, and Boto3 is going to let us interact with Amazon. So for example, I'm just going to bring up Pricer really quickly here. There we go. Okay. So basically what Boto3 will let us do is it's going to let us go and it will let us, for example, fetch prices from Amazon. So if people don't know much about AWS, there's different prices you can pay for resources on AWS. And yeah, basically, if you want to rent a server for a month, that's a certain price. Now it's going to be more expensive. If you use it all month, then it's going to be cheaper than renting it normally. But if you don't use it, then there's a trade-off there. The usual way to get things is called on-demand pricing, where you're just like, okay, I want a server right now, and you go buy a server. That's the way. That's the way I just created a server just now on using Terraform. It's just straightforward. I want it. Here's what the price is. Great. But there's also another way you can get it, which is that there's basically a bunch of servers that are not being used. Amazon has a lot more capacity than there are users, at least as far as I understand. So there's servers that are sitting around. So Amazon will actually rent out those servers for super, super cheap, but it's on the condition that if someone else wants that server at the regular price, you only have 2 minutes before you're going to get booted off of it, basically. So these are called spot instances. So one of the things for a use case you could have is you could use Python to go to Boto3, and you could basically, so Boto3 is basically an API. It's basically a gateway that allows you to get information from AWS into Python through code, for example. So you could go and you could have Python look around all of North America to find out where the cheapest spot price is, because each different region is going to have different spot prices. And actually within region, there's something called availability zone. Those are going to have all different spot prices as well. So you can have Python go and look at all of them kind of thing and find out what the cheapest one is. Then what you could do, of course, is you could, if you wanted to, you could then feed that information into Terraform to have Terraform build your spot requests for you. Of course, what happens is that spot requests are kind of like a market order. If anybody's done any stock trading, a market order is basically said, okay, if I can get the, let's say, stock at this price, then I want to buy it. But if it's more expensive, I don't want to buy it. So this is the kind of thing that you can do. It's with a spot request. You can say, if I can get the EC2 instance for this price, then I want it. And if not, then I don't want to get it, kind of thing. So yeah, so this is kind of one of the ways you can use Terraform. Is so basically this thing get cheapest spot instance is basically going to go all around North America, including Canada, and it's going to find the cheapest spot instances, and then it's going to basically it's going to get the best price out of them, and then it's going to build that with Terraform. And so this is kind of a little bit more. This is one of the ways that you can do it, but kind of just to bring your attention to is called a subprocess.run. And so this is one of the ways that you can. This is kind of like a little DevOps tool, I guess. It's a module in Python where you can run Terraform commands. Now, before we did Terraform apply, we saw that, but if you want to auto approve it, then it will just automatically go through. I won't have to type yes. And so this kind of module here will basically, let's just run it. And I believe I still have my testing in place in here. And what it's going to do at the end of it, it will go through and it's going to pull back the public IP for us. And so the public IP is, of course, what you're going to need to do to log into it. So we'll go through this really quickly, and then I can just do some closing remarks here. So the kind of interesting thing about, because you would think to yourself, well, why wouldn't I just always do a spot request then? Well, of course, if you have something that you need to have a lot of uptime to be very consistent, you can't have it on spot, because let's say it's a web server that is hosting your website and you need people to be able to come to your website, interact with it, then, basically with spot, if someone wants it for the typical price, then you get booted off. You only have 2 minutes. That being said, of course, you can get up to 80% cheaper. So let's say you want to do something like mine Bitcoin, for example. If you want to mine Bitcoin, for example, you probably want to do that on the cheapest servers you can do it on, right? And this is where something like Spot comes in, because let's say you are, I haven't done Bitcoin mining before, but I understand it's a bunch of very simple operations. As long as you regularly can download your progress, let's say in mining Bitcoin, you can save that on your computer as like, this is my checkpoint, basically. Then it doesn't matter if your instance gets killed. You can just boot up another one and restart, as long as you can restart at the same point, as long as you have checkpoints. So basically anything that can be checkpointed, as long as you're taking regular checkpoints, you can use those on spot requests, because you don't care if they get killed. You just start from your regular checkpoint again. And you can automate all of this, which is kind of one of the cool DevOps things. So great. So basically I'll just go back to my terminal just quickly. And this spot request here, which should have just got created. Yep, this active spot request. This is then, it's fulfilled. So we got the right price on it. And yeah, we can see that it is initializing right here. So this is going to be the one that links to it. And so basically, if we go back to our code, this is the IP address, the IP4 address, and this is the matching IP4 address. And so if we have a second here, I can, for example, one of the things you might want to do for this is that, let's say somebody wants to run a website. This is, again, a website's a bad example because you can't have it checkpointed and you want to be up. But like, for example, another thing you can automate as well is that you could have once you have these EC2 instances up and running and you have the public IP address for them, you can of course go into there and you can install whatever applications you want, and you can script all that and automate it. So for example, if somebody says, like, I want 100, WordPress websites, for example. Now you wouldn't want to do it with Spot, you'd want to do it on demand so it's more stable. But you could quickly tell Terraform to boot up as many instances you want and install WordPress on all of them really quickly. I actually had a demo today, but we're gonna have to move through it really quickly, just where I basically have a WordPress installer script that I was going to show just quickly, so that we can kind of feed this. We'll just install WordPress on a server, so we could boot up a server and then use Terraform to basically pass a WordPress script to it, such that when as soon as that's going, we do that. But I think I will not have quite time to do that today. So I'm just going to finish off with some closing remarks. If there's any questions, I'm happy to hear about them, and you can yeah, let me know any technical questions. I'm going to kind of just come. We also do training at Be Cloud Ready. So if anybody's interested in becoming a DevOps engineer, if any of this was interesting to you, kind of linking things together through Python using Terraform, and there's like a host of other tools that we're going to be doing. We basically we teach a program on how to do it. We've actually helped a lot of people get into the field. A lot of our students are interviewing right now. Some are getting job offers. There's basically 4 main skills that you need to have. There's a lot of talk about buzzwords out there, but you kind of need to have these 4 basics in place, and then you're going to build 1 or 2 enterprise grade projects using some buzzwords, right? But you can't understand the buzzwords unless you get these fundamentals in place. So if you came today and you learned about Terraform, I truly tried to dive down to a very like low level to explain it kind of from the ground up and give it a lot of context too. But of course, to actually be able to program in it and use it successfully in a useful way, you have to have all these different things in place, right? When I'm logging into the Terraform thing, that's all Linux. For me to understand what IP4 is and how to do security groups, things like that, then I have to have IT fundamentals, which is just networking ideas. Of course, cloud is AWS, and Python is kind of the glue that sticks everything together. And then, for example, so a student, if they could do the project today where they had Bodo 3 or they had Python, go to AWS, get the best price, go create a resource with it with Terraform, and then install WordPress on it, that will definitely get employers' attention. Like just kind of what we're covering today. If you could do all those things and put them together, an employer is going to be very interested to talk to you because there's not enough people doing it, especially if you're doing something like Docker Kubernetes, which maybe I will do a webinar on very soon. It's very, very hot. These sources are links for AWS Terraform and Azure and GCP. Yeah, actually, you know what? So Simon, just stay to the end, and I will at the end I'll go and fetch a whole bunch of links for you. Actually, I do have a lot of basically. You want to look at. I would say just if you go Medium, like Medium articles in Terraform. I don't know if you have to pay for Medium. I think you don't. I think you get those ones for free. But I would do just Terraform. Medium articles is a really good place to start. There's a lot of really solid YouTube videos, and also the Terraform documentation is beautiful. Terraform documentation. So once you use, let's say, Bodo 3, which is AWS's API, their documentation is really, once you get your head around it, it's actually really not bad. But there's a really steep learning curve because they don't hold your hand at all. Terraform holds your hand. It gives you code examples. You can basically just copy and paste everything from the Terraform documentation to get Terraform running. And you can do it across all the different providers, right? Like Azure, GCP, everything. So yeah, I would really, really go with that. Yeah, okay, so I'll kind of go with this. And again, if you have any more questions, please ask at the end. I'll just kind of get through this quickly because we're running for time, and then I'm happy to stay on and just talk like anything you're interested in. Yeah, so basically we break these skills down into some breakdowns, some kind of database concepts, operating system concepts. That was the AMI stuff I was talking about today. Networking is again, how do the computers all talk to each other? It's funny because once you kind of live and breathe this stuff for a while, it all becomes like it's almost just like talking in English about networking and things. And so it's interesting because I think I basically made the presentation very, very fundamental today. But if you hadn't seen Linux, you hadn't logged into a Linux box before, or you hadn't seen a command line interface, then all of this would be pretty mysterious, I guess. So yeah, anyways, we teach all of these things so that you can not only understand what these buzzwords are, that you can actually start to really get value out of them and kind of value that you can demonstrate to companies. So yeah, again, this would be a good one where you're basically going to use Jenkins and Docker and GitHub to install WordPress. People sometimes ask me like, why are we doing WordPress? WordPress is just it's a very nice example of an application. So basically in the DevOps world, we're generally not so close to the applications. Those will be the developers. In the DevOps world, what we're doing is we're doing all the stuff that's necessary for the applications to run. Kind of all the behind the scenes work, the plumbing to keep everything together and connecting all the, connecting all the different pieces. This is kind of what DevOps is all about. So when we basically go to deploy an application, everybody in DevOps will not really care so much what the application is. They're really going to care about the structure of the resources supporting the application. Awesome. Okay, yeah, here's another quick one. Yeah, so basically what we do is we do active learning, then we do project-based learning, and then basically the idea is that everything's hands-on so that you kind of can't forget. Obviously skills do degrade over time, but in a lot of ways, once you're hitting the job market, you will be really good with these tools. Like if you're kind of want to know what we did today and really be able to deploy Terraform stuff yourself, especially with more complex Terraform examples, then yeah, this is a great place to learn all about it. And then, yeah, so landing a tech job. We've helped a bunch of people do this. Kind of just going to rip through this really quickly. Again, it's all project-based learning. So we have a senior DevOps consultant as one of our founders, and he wants to hire people all the time. He's on hiring boards. He manages very large projects, both on contract and internally. And we're always looking to hire people. And we thought, okay, what are the skills we need? Because there's just not that many. There's not that many people who have an intermediate knowledge of DevOps. These are people who've been doing it forever, super super senior, or everybody's just done like a cloud guru or whatever it is, and they have an AWS certification. But if you ask them to do basically anything, they don't have those four kind of corners to put together. They have like a little, they maybe are pretty decent in one of those four corners. It's really hard to find people that can just go do a task. You're like, oh, please deploy some resources with Terraform. You just ask them to do that, and finding people that can just go do that, it's just really really hard. So basically, we figured out the projects that we would want people to have done so that they could go do the things that the industry wants right now. Being very involved in the industry, both through contracts and like internal projects and things like that. For example, I can tell you that some really, really huge companies down in Silicon Valley, so we're on contracts with them, is using Terraform to just do all their provisioning, like just like crazy. They have Python, which is kind of gluing everything together. They have Python that's kind of gluing everything together, but Terraform is kind of like the workhorse of their whole system. Yeah, and there's just not that many people that know Terraform, so it's pretty cool. Okay, great. So yeah, so you can find a lot of companies that will say you may or may not have a CS degree. So for people who are looking to get into this that don't have a CS degree, come from somewhere else, it's very doable as well. And here's a bunch of different jobs that these skills will let you go after. Of course, you'll have to tweak them a little bit, but we can help you with that. And yeah, so this is kind of just going to go through it really quickly here. And if you do join the program, I mean, I'm sure people have a lot of questions about the program, and I'm happy to have a phone call about that. Our website is a little bit outdated. We have switched our program around a lot recently, and we're pretty busy, so we haven't exactly got time to update the website. So if you'd like to get in touch with me, I can drop my email here, and I'm happy to do a phone call as well and kind of just like give you the most recent state of the art on the program. And then hopefully maybe over the weekend or something, I'll update it myself. But basically, when people join the program, they can stay in the program until they get a job. We can kind of make this, guarantee, because um, there's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of DevOps jobs. There's not enough people. Our students get hired. So if you work on it, then you'll get a job. And if people don't, they disappear. It's kind of self-selecting. So people can join the program. Of course, not everybody finishes it, because a lot of people aren't. Some people just have life get in the way. They realize it's not for them. It's like thinking about code all day. So you kind of have to be up for that. But if you are up for that, we can get you a job 100%. So you could just stay in the position. So basically, I can get the fee structure in a second here. But the idea is that once you join the program, yeah, we'll just keep you in it. This is kind of, we have these learning paths, basically just linear learning paths, where you just take the skills you learned, you build a project, and then you put those together with the next set of skills and build a project that combines the two. And then you combine the 3 for another project, the 4 for another project. It just keeps culminating until you're just working with everything together, until somebody can say, hey, I would like you to go build a DevOps system, and you'll be able to do the whole thing, like A to Z. And we've seen our students do this a bunch of times. So it's pretty rewarding. This is kind of the more advanced learning path. This is the basics, but very, very important. And this is the advanced learning path, where you have monitoring, configuration with Ansible, containerization with Docker Kubernetes. You can do a big modern tech stack. These are kind of like your really, really hot buzzwords, but you have to understand the stuff before you can understand those. And then basically you have creating full DevOps APIs at the end. So it's a great program. Yeah, so basically we've had really good results with our strategy, about 80%, 91% in all of our students within a year. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna get to the fees, because I know people always want to know. So it's $1,000 a month for 3 months, or you can do $500 a month for 6 months. So the total program cost is $3,000, right? It's $3,000 over 3 months. We're definitely going to give you the same, I don't know, support, education, everything as a college program that costs 17,000. We're just a little bit not as big. Like, we're not as big as a company, so we have, we don't have as much overhead. We don't have a physical location. Currently, of course, we did before COVID, but now everybody just work from home, so everything's online. So we can offer it at a reduced price. I feel like some days that if we just did charge 17,000, then we'd actually get more enrollments, because that maybe people associate huge numbers with value, but it will be equally as valuable. It's just at a better price, because again, we have a lot less overhead. We can do that. Yeah, so the total program cost is $3,000. We do offer $1,000 post So once you get a job, if you would like to have support, we can also give you that for $1,000. So basically, we will help you do your job. We'll make sure you feel comfortable. Most people just need that for about 3 months, and they're smooth sailing on their own. Some people don't need it at all, of course. So if you really know what's going on, and that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed here about the program, but I don't think so. I can kind of leave it open for questions currently, and I'll go try to. I'm going to just stop sharing, and I'm going to reshare just this bit, and I will try to go look up some resources for learning Terraform. Yeah, of course, to start with this. Oh, I didn't type out my email. So yeah, this is my, actually, let's do my email from before. That's my email. If anybody would like to get in touch with me with the program or anything else, really. If I have time to answer technical questions, I'm happy to. Yeah, I would just, obviously I'd start with so maybe not starting with the docs, but just having the docs at the tip of your fingers is really good, because docs are great. And then I can kind of show you some, I don't know if you like to use, if you like to use YouTube, but it's interesting. YouTube is good for a first pass, I find. But so there's kind of some things about it. YouTube is good for a first pass if you don't know anything at all. You should use it with a speed controller. So I don't know if you use a speed controller, but you should definitely be trying to work your speed up. Yeah, sorry, I just have to respond on Slack for 1 second, so we're over time. Yep. Basically, you should use a speed controller because you need to speed things up in your mind, or not speed things in your mind. Well, that helps as well. But basically, so you can watch your videos a lot faster. So basically, I think if you have a Chrome, you could just Google the Chrome speed controller, I think, and you can speed up YouTube videos to like whatever you'd like. Eventually, I think if you do it for a couple of years, you can get up to like 3x speed. So everything's just whipping by really, really, really quickly. That's really good to get an overview. But basically after that, then you need to go and actually build tutorials on your own. So when you're doing it, of course, you should be following along. This is kind of like basic student advice, but kind of one of the things that people often seem to not know is that like just watching it is pretty much useless unless you actually are building it. And the second thing is that a lot of people actually do make, I would say, not mistakes in the tutorials, but the way that the tool is going to be used, they won't show you that because they're not using it in production setting. They're basically, these are YouTubers who have created, videos basically from doing tutorials, and it's kind of tutorial on tutorial on tutorial on tutorial. To actually get a kind of good feel for it, you're going to have to try to find somebody who's using it in production, or go through the docs yourself, because the docs will actually will actually educate you a lot about, you know, um, how the developers, the people who know how to use it, are kind of intending you to use it. Like, so for example, let me see, I'll try to find, just going to try to find Provisioner. Yeah, so I'll just, let's see, copy this into chat as well. And so, for example, like if you want to install scripts, like you want to configure, so you have an EC2 instance, you've just booted up, now you want to configure it, you want to somehow automate configuration of it, right? There's a lot of different ways to do that. There's a lot of ways to access the EC2 instance and then automatically install a script on it, right? I'll kind of share my screen one more time, and then I have to go in about, let's say, about 3 minutes, but I'll share my screen one more time. So for example, like I was mentioning before, I believe we have our Terraform. Is this running with Red Hat? My screen is blocked. Yeah, this is running Red Hat. So if you haven't done this before, we're gonna connect, and then I'm going to CMD, and let's CD into, I've got it in downloads, keys. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So this is me. So so this is now a shell that's connected to this EC2 instance, right? This is my IP address. And this is the IP address for this instance. So now if I go and I had that script from earlier, and I'm going to copy that script over, and let's go nano, let's call it this installer.sh. Oh yeah, okay, let's go sudo yum install y nano. Actually, maybe it's flag y. Yeah, so it's actually, so the question about this with Kubernetes is, let's see here. And I'm gonna just chmod this script and then run it. Anyways, so have I tried it in production with Kubernetes and Terraform? So it's actually really, so it's really a nice question. Basically right now, what I'm working on is that spot pricing stuff I was showing you about before. Getting spot prices. So basically, where do I start here? EKS is a service by Amazon that will do like auto scaling for Kubernetes clusters, right? So as your load goes, you need more nodes and it'll scale up and down. Awesome. So that's expensive though. It's really expensive. The service level is expensive. Also it's on demand, which is expensive. And like I was saying, if you have a service that can be checkpointed, then you want to try to use Spot if you can, right? So it'd be much better if you could create your own basically EKS, right? And so this is the idea for Terraform. This is how people are using it. They'll go find good spot prices and then they'll get Terraform to constantly be building and to be building the supporting clusters. It's not simple, but anyways, that's yeah, the config should be pay as you go kind of things. Yeah, I don't actually know what the AKS model is currently. What I'm basically trying to do is so I don't know what the payment model is, but like from an infrastructure standpoint, that's actually that's one of the yeah, the main uses. That's one of the main use cases that I'm actually working on like day to day. That's the project I'm on. So it's a really cool question. It's very top of the mind right now. So yeah, anyways, I do have to run. So if anybody would like to get in touch with me, email if you have any questions about the things. This is going to run WordPress. If you're asking about using Kubernetes in production, then you've probably seen shell scripting before. So I'm not sure this is the most interesting thing, but if not, it's kind of cool. I always get a bit of a kick when I think that you can share my screen, see my whole screen, but so what I basically did today is just I used Terraform to create the resource, and then I manually threw the script on there. There's lots of different ways to automate the script, like automate running the script on it to install WordPress, because obviously now at this IP address there's WordPress, right? Very good. The link I showed you about the provisioner, right? The link I showed you about the provisioners has a lot of comments about how you shouldn't really use Terraform as a provisioner, meaning that you shouldn't be using Terraform to put your scripts onto your EC2 instances. There's other tools like Ansible, there's just other ways to do it that are going to be much more secure, much better. And this is kind of going back to my point about if you just watch YouTube videos, getting these kind of finer details about how you really should be using it, it's hard to get it from that perspective, right? So really read the docs or join our program. I mean, we'll tell you exactly, and we'll be on projects where we'll see kind of best use cases. Like these are Silicon Valley projects, and we pass it learning on to you guys. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but it just kind of don't start and stop with watching YouTube videos. That's kind of my takeaway. But yeah, that's it. If there's no last minute questions, I'm going to jump off. Thanks so much for spending your time with us today, and hopefully see you all soon.